Let's use cluster info to demonstrate how blue-green deployments work in Kubernetes. So we have a simple deployment here with a load balancer and a public IP address that services this set of pods. And as you can see, the internal load balancer is balancing traffic across these blue pods that are in the deployment. Okay, so now we want to make a breaking change to this deployment. So we want to go ahead and create a green deployment version of this. Make sure it's up and running before we switch the users over to it. So let's go back to our deployments. We have our single deployment here. Let's go ahead and make a green deployment. And if we look at the labels of the blue deployment, has target blue dep as our label. If we look at the labels of the green deployment, it has target green dep, and our service is now looking for blue dep. So now that we know that the green deployment has started up successfully, we can make sure that everything is working. We're going to switch the users of this service, of this IP address, to the new green deployment. So if we look at this, you can see it's now servicing all the blue pods, and when we make the switch to the label selector, it will now service all the green pods. Now if we look at the actual page itself, Kubernetes is caching it to allow us to finish out our sessions before it starts serving the new green deployments. But if we were to create a new session by opening up a different browser and going to that IP address, we will see that new users are being served the green deployment. Now this previous deployment is still being cached for a little bit. Eventually the cluster will time out and will start sending all the traffic to the new deployment. But now that we know that the green deployment is successfully up and running, we can go ahead and delete the blue deployment here, and this will force the service to send all the traffic to the green deployment. So let's go ahead and delete the blue deployment and watch what happens to the original traffic. Right? The cluster has no choice but to send all the traffic to the green because the blue simply doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so that was a controlled release, a blue-green release. We made sure that everything was ready to go before we switched over to the new deployment. And once we did and verified that the deployment is good to go, we were able to delete the old deployment.